Today we're going to look at logarithmic rules. There are three main rules that we're going to look at, and they're all derived from the exponent rules. We're not going to go in the proof. We can try to fit that in class at some point. But b to the x times b to the y is b to the x plus y. So that's the foundation of our first rule. B to the x divided by b to the y is b to the x minus y. And when we have b to the x to the y, that's b to the xy. So when we're multiplying, we add. When we're dividing, we subtract. When we're raising something to a power, we multiply. That's the fundamental idea behind all of these rules. So with logarithms, the product rule says if we take the log of a product, that's the same thing as the sum of the separate logs. When we take the log of a quotient, it's the difference of those different logs. So you need to memorize that multiplication turns into addition, division turns into subtraction, and exponents turn into multiplication. I'm sorry, I wrote that wrong. This is y times log of x is the power rule. So how do we apply these? Well, you just have to memorize each of the rules. When we have, based on the power rule, because this is a power, we can say that this is the same thing as 5 times log base 5 of 7. And the directions here are expand, so write it in with more logs and with less inside of the logarithm. And sometimes we're expanding, sometimes we're condensing. Here we're taking the log of a quotient, so we're going to take the difference of the logs. So this was product rule, this was quotient rule. You have to have these memorized. Here we have more than one rule going on at once. You could distribute the exponent first. Actually, I feel like doing that. I like that. Log base 9 of u to the 12th times v to the 6th, which is the same thing as log base 9 of u to the 12th plus log base 9 of v to the 6th, and this is by the product rule. Then if we use the power rule, the power inside becomes a coefficient outside. Log base 9 of u plus 6 log base 9 of v. So these are the same thing. This one's a little trickier. When we have a sum or a difference in sign, there's no rule for a sum or a difference inside. However, this particular thing can be written by factoring it as x minus 3 squared. So we can use the power rule once we've factored this as x minus 3 squared to say that this is the same thing as 2 log 5 of x minus 3. So that's how we can expand those. What about condensing? Well, this is going the opposite direction. When we have a coefficient, that's the same thing as a power inside. So this is log base 2 of 11 to the 4th. And we could do that out, but it's not a great use of our time. Log base 4 of u plus log base 4 of v by the product rule, that is the same thing as log base 4 of uv. When we have these, well, they're added outside, which is the same thing as multiplying inside. So this is x plus 4 times x minus 2. And you could either leave it like this or say that this is the natural log of x squared plus 2x minus 8. So this is a way to condense these. We're adding outside, so we're multiplying inside. Same thing here. When we are subtracting outside, we're dividing inside. So x squared minus 16 over x minus 4. And we can simplify this because the numerator can be factored. X plus 4, that's supposed to be plus normal 4, and x minus 4 x minus 4's cancel, and we have that this is the same thing as log base 6 of x plus 4. One more page. When we have something like a coefficient of 1/2, that's the same thing as having a power of 1/2 inside. So that's x to the 1/2. If you wanted to, you could write that as, actually I do want to, you could write that as the square root. So log base 9 of z plus log base 9 of the square root of x, because that's what x to the 1/2 is, log base 9 of square root of y. And now by the power rule, because we're adding, we're going to multiply inside. So this is z times the square root of x times the square root of y is the square root of xy. So that's condensed, and same thing is happening here. The coefficient becomes a power, log base 5 of u to the 5th, log base 5 of v squared, and then the power rule says this is log base 5 of u to the 5th v squared. That's it.